Please use common sense and don't endanger yourself or others. The process of brewing can be dangerous. Please take a few moments and remember, brewing should be enjoyable, but you are dealing with some dangerous things. Please try to remember to keep everything well ventilated and never use propane inside. The CO2 could kill you. If you like beer and your tastes have moved up on the refreshment scale to a point that you just must try to forge your own creation, homebrewing is for you. With just a few basic ingredients and some common household implements, you can be enjoying your own flavor of beer. This set of instructions is geared for the novice brewer. That means just about anyone can do it regardless of experience. I'd like to start with the small list of things that you'll be needing. Now remember, you will not need a large set of expensive equipment to make homebrew. Most brewing supply stores have starter kits that range from $50 on up. You should always try to make do with what you have already, and make sure that this is something you want to invest in. It's even better to borrow some or even all of the needed equipment from an understanding friend. The following is a basic list of what you will need. You will be needing a large pot. This one will need to be at least 3 gallons in size, although a larger one is easier to deal with, and a large one will generally result in fewer spills. You will need some tubing and a clamp. This is to siphon the beer from the bucket to the bottles. A 4-foot section of 3/8 inner diameter food-grade plastic tubing will work. You will also need an airtight fermenter, a glass carboy, or a 5-gallon plastic bucket with a lid. If you can afford it, purchase the glass carboy as they are easier to keep sanitized and they don't leak. The carboy option is optimal, but not necessary. If you get a carboy, you will need a large bottle brush to clean it. You will also need an airlock and a stopper. These will need to be sized to fit with your fermenter or your bucket. Carboy or your bucket. You will also be required to have a bottle filler. This will be available from your local homebrew supplier and should be sized to fit the end of your siphon tubing. You will also need a thermometer. You can use a floating thermometer or a glass one with a range of 0 to 100 degrees C or up. You will be needing some bottles as well. You will just need over 2 cases and 12-ounce bottles to bottle 5 gallons of beer. Do not use twist-off bottles. They can prove to be pretty questionable in the end whenever you get to the carbonation portion, as the tops can pop off. Use high-quality bottles that require a bottle opener only. If you use lower-quality bottles, you run the risk of them bursting during carbonation. You will also need a bottle brush. You will need a small brush to get inside the bottles to brush them clean. You will need a capper, and this is a hand-driven device that caps your bottles, also available from the homebrew store. You will need to get yourself a bag of bottle caps. New bottle caps are sold at your homebrew supplier, and you'll need about 50 caps for a 5-gallon batch. You will also need to get some sanitizer solution. Beer is prone to infection, so everything must be sanitized before use. Household bleach can be used, but it must be thoroughly rinsed to prevent contamination. Household bleach can be used, but it must be thoroughly rinsed to prevent contamination. Your brew store may have better alternatives such as Ido4 and Star San. The ingredients that you will need for your recipe will depend on the style of beer you're trying to make. There are many different recipes available online at sites such as beersmith.com. These will provide a basic set of recipes or the ability to use their information to customize the beers that you're working on. Alright, let's get started. There are 5 steps to brewing the beer. The process of brewing the beer is a combination of water, malt extract, or grains, and hops. This combination creates the magic liquid wort. With yeast, wort becomes beer. As with everything you plan on ingesting, you should take sanitation precautions. This consists of using your sanitizing solution to disinfect all equipment that is to come in contact with the beer. You will need to bring the water that your recipe calls for to a rolling boil. This is a boil that you can't stir away. You will then need to add your grain or extract to the boiling water. This is to sterilize the wort, and this is how you extract the bitterness out of the hops. Many home brewers add specialty grains to the mix at this time to add different characters to the beer. Make sure that you pay careful attention to stir as you add so as nothing sticks to the bottom of the pot. Depending on your recipe, the timing during the boiling of the wort that you add the hops determines the bitterness level. The earlier you add the hops, the longer time it will have to extract the bittering agents from the hops, which will make the beer more bitter in the end. The wort should attain a dark brown color, and it should also get more viscous. You should see bubbles forming at the top, and you should see most of the larger items reducing into less particulate matter. After the hour of boiling the wort, you will need to be cooling the wort as soon as possible. You need to cool it to room temperature quickly and transfer it to the fermenter. At this point, you can add sanitary cool water to achieve the desired temperature. When the wort reaches room temperature, it's a good time to check your potential alcohol content. This is done using your hydrometer. Keep track of this number. It will help tell when your beer is done or fully attenuated. At this point, you will add yeast to begin the fermentation process. Now you will ferment for 2 weeks. The beginning of the fermentation process is a very active thing. It constitutes the beer almost looking like it's boiling. You will end up getting quite a bit of blow-off or krausening off the top of the beer. That is the foam you see here in the pictures. It's a very good idea to use a large gauge tubing so that the foam can pass out of the carboy or the primary fermenter so as not to have it explode on you or pop and leave you stuff on your garage ceiling. It's also very important to keep the beer within a certain range temperature-wise, depending on the yeast that you have decided to use and the style of beer that you're using. A ale or a stout is going to need to ferment at higher temperatures than, say, a lager. Next, we have the bottling and carbonation process. When the beer has completed its fermentation, you siphon it into another container to bottle from. When you bottle, you will need to add carbon sugar to the beer before you siphon it into the bottles. The beer is to be siphoned into each of the bottles and capped. Make sure that you keep up with the sanitation. If your bottles are dirty, you're going to end up with bad beer. Now, all you have to do is wait. You're going to be aging the beer, and that after the bottled beer is aged for about 4 weeks or more, it will be carbonated. During this time, the beer will mellow in flavor, and it will take on the characteristics that you hopefully aimed for. Now this leads us to the final step. Drink the beer and be happy. Enjoy it. If you followed these 5 easy steps, you should be enjoying beer in a month or so. Overall, brewing a batch of beer involves 4 hours of your time brewing and 4 weeks aging to have the beer mature. Good luck to you and good drinking. Cheers.